Well, it's a big week for Canadian soccer. So we got a full house on Footy Prime today. As usual, we got Jimmy Brennan, we got Amy Walsh, we got Craig Forrest, Dan Wong, Jeff Cole. I'm James Sharman. A couple of guests today, important guests. Now, before we get to today's interview, a little precursor. Regarding the current CBA negotiations, both sides are back at the table. Progress is being made. Out of respect to the process, they have agreed that they cannot talk about that issue today. However, they have promised us when there's news, they will talk to us. Okay, so all you people out there who can go, why didn't you ask about the CBA? There's a good reason for that. I think it's optimism.
In that voice.
Yeah, in that voice. But
also, that was quite the tease. You've left them nebulously
I know,
floating around like that. It's very well done.
I'm a veteran broadcaster. Okay, we're joined by Kevin Blue, General Secretary and CEO of Canada Soccer, and Peter Ngruso, Canada Soccer President. So welcome to Footy Prime, both of you, for the first time. We've been trying to get you on for a while now, but here we are, the week of Argentina in Copa America. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's our pleasure. We've been playing hard to get, but we're here.
Well,
I'm used to that.
Let me start.
He is. I can back that up.
Peter, can we start with you here? There's a lot of murkiness between the roles, CEO and president in the past. Who does what? Who's responsible for what? Can you just clarify to start with exactly what your role is compared to Kevin's role?
Sure. I mean, I don't come to this uninitiated. I was the president and chair of Ontario Soccer for the past 6 years, and Johnny Misley and I had a really good relationship. Johnny ran the operations. I ran the board. I ran the strategic pieces, got the funding, helped generate revenues, helped build the game. With Kevin on board, I must say that Kevin and I have hit it off right off the get-go. Started on the day before the election, and it's continued to this point. So, hey, do I understand operations? Absolutely. Does Kevin consult with me? Yes, but these are his decisions, but he needs somebody to bounce things off. I'm there for him. So I would say with Kevin and I, it's a good partnership. I bring the football piece. I've got the grassroots level all the way up. And I was worried about Kevin, I'll be honest. He's a golf guy, but he's a very smart golf guy. And he's a guy that we need in the sport to help elevate us to the next level. So I think I'm at the 30,000 foot level and Kevin's in the weeds. That's probably the best way to describe it.
That makes sense. All right, Kevin. So your job is to really establish Canada as a global soccer brand in many regards. Is that fair to say? And does that come from team success, or is it more from business acumen? What's the most important component to become relevant internationally?
Well, I think it's probably a combination of the two. You have to be successful competitively. That's what people want to support and cheer for, obviously. People don't cheer for business brands. They cheer for players and teams and coaches and achievements on the pitch. And obviously we're very committed to that, and very committed to continuing to move things forward at the senior levels on, both for the men and the women. At the same time, the things that we need to do to make sure that we're supporting the federation financially and putting the players and coaches and the entire programs, for senior all the way down to youth, that there's a significant business component to doing that well. Right, you have to fund the program, and you have to be able to have the resources to achieve at a global level. So I think a combination of those two things is what is necessary to really help Canada fully arrive in global football.
What are the biggest challenges you've had, you guys, as far as, we know that there's been a bunch of issues, obviously, outside looking in, but what are the biggest challenges that you guys have had so far?
I think it's, as I've come on board, I've now been in the job for 3 months, right? And still for me, there's still a pretty significant learning curve. Like Peter said, and you all are aware, like I don't come from the football world, right? So there's a significant learning curve about the football stuff. but for me, I'm very comfortable with that. Like that's it, you all know my past is in NCAA sports, and athletic directors by definition are not an expert in every single sport that they're overseeing. Like when I was at the AD at UC Davis, there's 25 teams. Of course, I'm not an expert in 25 different sports, right? So the learning curve culturally, the learning curve from a football standpoint has been a part of my growth opportunities. And I just think that the culture and the tenor and sort of the business conditions of where the sport is in Canada right now are something that we're continuing to work through. And it's part of the challenge. It's part of the reason that I took the position. And it's frankly, I think part of the reason that Peter was attracted to the opportunity of leading the board and being the chair. And those are the things that we're really attacking them as fast as we can and with as much intensity as we can. So Peter, you probably have more to add to that.
Yeah, I think, Craig, for me, being on the outside looking in for the last 6 years, I did get a good insight onto what's going on. But the challenge for the federation is to build a feeling of oneness, because it's not how good each person works or how each province works, it's how we work together, just like a team. And that's been the biggest challenge. And what I found in the last 6 weeks that I've been around and working with the members of the member associations is we're clearly at an opportune time to align across the country. And that hasn't been there before, but they see that, and maybe it's because of the leadership that Kevin brings and the new leadership I bring. It is there. You can feel it. It's palatable. Now is the opportunity for us to align our resources across the country. Okay.
And I get all that, but let's be honest, it's been a mess the last year, 2 years. You guys are the new leadership that has been, demanded by the fans. At this point, are you still in the cleanup stage? Or is it we're past that now? Now it's the moving forward, the growth, the rebranding stage. Where would you say we're at this point, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are, and Peter and I talk, I don't know, several times a day, every day. We are very, very focused on forward progress. Like we're looking forward, right? We're not looking back. We're looking forward. We obviously learned from history, clearly. And there are things that have happened historically that cast a shadow over, present day discussions. And that's just a reality that as new people, Peter and I deal with that reality. But you're not going to see us sort of twisting our necks to look back. We're looking forward. There's a lot of work to do, right? Like you heard Jesse talk about it in his press conference about the men's team having made progress, but still being quite a ways away from his vision of what it should be. I think organizationally, we would feel the same thing. Like we feel encouraged about some progress that we've made, but as we look forward, there's a lot to do and there's a lot of opportunities ahead of us. Peter, I don't know if you have further to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, if we could be honest, yeah, we've inherited a bit of a mess. But to Kevin's point, we're not looking back, we're looking forward. So we've started from day one, looking forward and how do we fix this? And I could tell you that on a number of fronts, we've already fixed it and we've moved forward. Is there more to do? Well, yeah, there is. But we also have to shore up the staffing. So, I mean, I can't expect Kevin and the staff to continue doing what we expect of a 49th ranked team for the men and 9th for the women.
Eighth.
We 8th. Sorry, they must have just changed that. They must have just changed that
last week.
Yeah. So there we go. I stand to be corrected, and I'm happy to be corrected. But I think we've gone from 100th. And we've gone down to where we should be, and we're looking at getting the top 25. And to get there, we need to professionalize the administration. The teams are here. The men's and the women's teams are here, and the administration is down here. We have to bring that up to the same level where the players are, and that's our challenge and that's our goal.
I think the admission of that is refreshing to hear, because I think in the past there's been almost an obtuse approach, with like a blinkered approach in terms of what the association is doing, that we're doing it the best way. We're setting standards for best practices when they clearly weren't. So to hear that you guys are achieving to a higher standard is great. But Sharms used the word rebrand before. So Kevin, this one's for you. So you were creative and innovative in the way that you hired Jesse, bringing in the Canadian MLS franchises, and you spoke about the youth teams. So is there an approach or a vision for you to do the same for the youth programming in Canada, bring a sponsor on board?
Philanthropic activity and building a successful operation that generates philanthropic support for all programs is absolutely a part of our recipe going forward. And we're in the process right now of building the appropriate formal structure for that. And I anticipate that, you know, youth programs would be a significant beneficiary of what we're trying to do from a philanthropic resource generation standpoint. I mean, Amy, you've been part of U.S. college sports. You know how sort of it works. That's where I grew up in my career. And although there are significant cultural differences between Canada and the U.S. as it relates to supporting sports through fundraising, more and more habits of philanthropic support from the U.S. are coming to Canada. And we are endeavoring to put Canada soccer on the leading edge of that as we diversify our revenue streams in order to fund things like the youth programs, right? In order to fund things like making sure we're able to demonstrate the leadership we need to on grassroots programming. So that's a long answer to the question. I could have given you a one-word answer, which is yes, but certainly, you know, building the philanthropic operation is a pretty significant part of our future.
That's really interesting. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
And Peter, obviously, you know, you want to get into the top 25. Supporting those youth programs is obviously imperative if we're going to do that, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Craig, I can share with you my first week on the job. I attended the FIFA Congress, and the FIFA folks gave me an orientation session. This is FIFA. This is what we do. And lo and behold, Kevin and I were sitting back, and wasn't there some money that they could give us to run youth tournaments? Us with a host, Mexico, US, Canada, and we have to invite one other nation, obviously make it a 4-nation tourney. But there's 125 million US that they're willing to help us with camps. So I put up my hand and say, we'll take it. You know, we'll work with you guys. And so Kevin and our US and Mexican counterparts are working on hosting the national youth tournaments next year and the year after. And we'll just split between countries. But it also helps with that development. Craig, we can't continue to be where we're at if we don't build from the bottom.
In time, do you think, and can we expect, I mean, we talk about the resources and we lack them over the years, especially at the youth levels. Is there a plan to eventually have a national training facility?
You know, I can tell you that there is that plan. That was part of my platform on getting elected. I am working with FIFA actually right now to get some money for a feasibility study. But I don't want to distract from the game on Thursday. So I'll just say this, Jimmy. Yes, it's on the agenda. Yes, it's something that we're going to plan for, and we're going to do it properly. And I could tell you my time in Rotterdam and in Bordeaux, I got to see some excellent facilities. So we're not building anything substandard in Canada. We're going to build something that everybody can be proud of. And when players and fans and the media walk into it, they'll say, wow, Canada is at a different level. So we're not going to accept, you know, this. We're striving for the best.
Early days, I know this, but from a location for that, do you have an ideal location in mind as far as city, province? Obviously, with the European-based players, it would make sense in many ways to be in, dare I say, Ontario. Going to upset our Western listeners now, but do you have a preferred location?
Well, I think the feasibility study will tell us, Sharms, where exactly that should be. I think all those things need to be factored into that discussion, and ultimately we'll make that decision. But right now, I'm not going to say where it should be. I think the feasibility study will lead us to a conclusion.
Toronto.
For us, it'd be very convenient.
Jimmy, where was that?
Kevin, the MLS investment, I think, was really smart. It's a great way to get money into the national team programs, obviously. And I think most people got that. Now, there were some naysayers. We heard from them saying, well, now it gives the MLS teams too much say, too much power. Was that discussed at all when you were talking to TFC, Montreal, Vancouver, apart from as far as their role outside of the financial commitment?
Yeah, I mean, part of major gift fundraising is being super clear about what influence people have or don't have. And in again, this is reflective of the fact that in US college sports, this type of fundraising is very common, right? In Canada, it's less common to date. But, you know, in major gift fundraising, there's explicit language in gift agreements. There's explicit expectations about, like, there's no operational influence. There's no sort of benefits that come along with being a philanthropic supporter that are associated in any way, shape, or form with what's happening on the pitch or what kind of decisions are being made. So I can understand how people who are unfamiliar with how major gift fundraising has operated, that they may have those questions. But I can obviously reassure folks that there's no such influence happening behind the scenes on any type of operational items related to the men's national team. And obviously Jesse wouldn't be taking a job in which his hands were tied or there was some kind of influence on what he could or couldn't do. And I think, he's spoken to that too. So I understand the question, but I think the question is partially reflective of the fact that major gift fundraising is pretty new in Canada. This happens all the time in the US. And it's something that, those of us who have experience in this in the US understand how to create the right type of boundaries that are lines that just are not crossed.
Does Jesse's business card say MLS national team head coach? Is MLS?
I don't know. I haven't seen his business card. I haven't seen his business card. It's a good question.
Even just on his kit, right? Instead of JM for Jesse Marsh, it has the entire title. I mean, that would take up a fair amount of space.
Well, the other thing is,
we're
sorry, I was just going to say Footy Prime is looking to do some sponsorship too, Kevin. So it'll be the Footy Prime General Secretary, Kevin Blue, just so you know. That's our next step.
Yeah.
Yes, we have like $10, $15 available.
That's right.
So, hey, there you go. I know you can't talk about the CSB right now. I understand that. But late last night, saw a press release come down regarding the Mediapro One Soccer that they've agreed to sever ties. The lawsuit now is gone, thankfully for that. Is this positive moving forward then for the game and for certainly from the broadcast level of football in this country, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. So without commenting on the merits of the settlement, which we don't have visibility into, I would say that we're very supportive of our commercial partner in CSB's efforts to grow One Soccer and make sure that there's broader and broader distribution of One Soccer. We want the product to be seen by more and more and more people, right? And I know there's a pretty significant effort underway to make sure that the content gets distributed in the widest possible form, whether that's subscription like it is now and or linear cable, like people aspire to down the road to grow the linear cable footprint of One Soccer. These are all good, right? So it's obviously when you have a dispute like that, clearly resolution is better than not. We're not privy to necessarily the terms of the settlement. It's not really our business, but writ large, we want to see the content more broadly distributed, as does our partners at CSB. And, that's how we make our players famous. That's how we make our players household names. That's how we make the stories of our national teams more commonly known and understood throughout households in Canada, not only in soccer households, but in just general sports fan households as we grow into this really critical period of time. So the media component of that's critical. And we believe that this is a step in a very positive direction in that regard.
And here's the gossip. So I had a pint with the leadership of CSB last night, and this conversation came up. And one of the things that I learned from the conversation was CRTC's ruling that this should be carried on Main Street was pushed to Rogers and Bell, and their comeback was, well, listen, this is not a Canadian company, so we have no obligation to do so. It is now wholly 100% Canadian. So I think that helps the discussion.
You would think so, yeah. One of your predecessors, actually, Victor Montagliani, was very critical of the major networks in this country and their lack of commitment to growing the sport in this country. I guess now it's on them, isn't it, Peter?
Yes, exactly. And like I said, with the 100% to Canadian ownership now, there's no reason for them not to.
Yeah, and you're right by the visibility side of things, because I think about the game against France and what an opportunity, or maybe even one miss, because people that are already subscribing, you've already got them. You're sort of preaching to the choir already. But to grow the game, that game was a great example of where, you just wish there was more kids that could watch that, or young people that could watch that, to be able to fall in love with it, because that's obviously how it's done. When you look at Connor McDavid, he's on the TV every other night. They have a huge advantage, and it is a challenge for us in the game of soccer.
Yeah, it's an important part of it, Craig, as you're saying. And we are eager to help and drive and make sure that the stories of the players, really the players are the heroes, right? It's important that the stories of these players are told, and broad-based media exposure is a key to that. And we're encouraged by the efforts of the folks that we work with commercially to try to continue to move that forward. And again, hopefully this settlement is a path, is a step in that direction. Again, us not being necessarily involved in the details of it.
And you have a head coach now for the men's side who has a brand, a well-known figure in international football, certainly. You have a captain now who's, frankly, is a household name in football circles. With respect to Connor McDavid, he ain't nothing compared to Fonzie globally. It doesn't even touch him.
No.
We know that. We've got these faces now to drive towards 2026. How much was that when you were looking for a head coach? Jesse's brand, how important was that? Besides the football acumen, but the ability that he is good on camera, he speaks really well, people know who he is. Was that a factor?
Well, the first factor is me relying on the first way that I thought about this was, as you all maybe know, I called some of you and talked to some of you all about, like, hey, what does the national men's team need right now, and help me understand this. And so taking into account the viewpoints of many alum and experts on just generally, okay, what do we need? How should we go about thinking about this? The football part of it is the primary consideration, right? Like, and the folks that I had in advising me, who were close to the process, who were alumni, et cetera, had very strong feelings about the football side of Jesse when we started to work with Jesse throughout the process. And that's the main consideration. Now, of course, Jesse brings other things to the table that are important in the moment in time that we're at, like his ability to, and passion for, frankly, some of the building that needs to happen in our sport is clear. Like, he wants to engage. It's not like a have to for him. He wants to engage in things like trying to make sure that the youth system and at the club level is more aligned, wanting to make sure that Canadian coaches continue to develop and have opportunity. He wants to be a builder on the commercial side and the philanthropic side. Like, these are intellectual interests of his. And that's obviously synergistic for what we need right now off the pitch. But that's kind of the tail wagging the dog. There's certainly the football part, as the counsel I received from our football folks was what drew us to him in the first place. And the other stuff is very, very helpful, but it's not the primary consideration. So as we move forward, like, we're eager to see, under his leadership, the men's program continue to evolve and try to match the accomplishments of our very established and esteemed women's program. And the off-pitch stuff is going to be great. And he brings a lot to the table there as well.
You're talking about alumni there, and in the recently published independent investigation of Canada Soccer's governance, one of the recommendations was that Canada Soccer would, quote, involve athletes and other committees and task forces when deemed appropriate to ensure their voices are heard. So you talked about, consulting alumni. Obviously, there was a very concerted effort to do that, to do your due diligence, being a golf guy, in your own words, in the hiring of Jesse Marsh. But in the future, is there going to be an official kind of committee put together of current players or past players where you can do that on a regular basis?
Amy, like, I think how to more formalize the involvement and consultation process with alumni. Like, I actively do that on a regular basis, even throughout, like, obviously preceding the Jesse's process, but even now, like, I talk to the players themselves pretty regularly on matters that are related to the program, et cetera. Like, I'm a very open door when it comes to these types of things. And then as far as alumni are concerned, same thing, right? Now, how do we formalize that? That's something that was recommended in the report, and is something we're significantly considering, obviously, based on it being in the report. I just haven't had the time quite yet to really figure out, okay, here's exactly formally how we're going to do this. But look, alumni and player engagement, like current player engagement and alumni engagement, are two critical pieces to building a healthy program. Like, these are fundamentals of a good sports organization. And we want to make sure that the alumni and player engagement that we have right now continues to be helpful and is formalized however we decide to do it in the most appropriate ways. So yeah, certainly that recommendation is aligned philosophically with how we're already acting. It's just a matter of, like, okay, how do we formalize and when do we formalize?
We are out of time, unfortunately. We could talk for hours, and I'm sure we will get you guys back very, very soon. It's a great time for football. Listen, I understand the last couple of years, as mentioned, has been challenging. but there's light, I think, certainly end of the tunnel. Hopefully next time we speak, there's a CBA agreement to talk about. But thank you, both of you, for joining us, giving us your time, and enjoy Thursday. All right, enjoy Thursday. Argentina, walking around the streets of Atlanta with your Canada soccer shirts on amongst the Argentine proletariat there. Enjoy and good luck.
Thank you. The players are hungry for it, so we look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you all appreciate you guys covering us. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Peter. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin. Bye, Peter.
Thank you, guys.